Sam, you were really competitive for 3 weeks. Why do you think that wasn't the case tonight?
Yeah, I mean, challenging one. We really shot ourselves in the foot. I mean, getting a little bit sick of saying it, but at half time we'd had 29 inside 50s for 8 scores, and they'd had 19 inside 50s but 14 scores. So our efficiency going forward, our being able to consolidate the territory from clearance wins continues to be a challenge for us. And then, we had a lot of issues in the game, but discipline. The free kicks was like 20-5, but it's definitely not an umpire thing. It's just us. We're just undisciplined. We're too eager going in for tackles, with too much energy, and we just think that their first two goals both came from free kicks. So we didn't handle situations well enough, and I think we had some real challenges going forward, and then once we had to try and change a few things, rob Peter to pay Paul, and things got worse.
How did you handle that? I guess that ill discipline, some of those free kicks, there was a 50-metre penalty in there as well. How do you handle that during the game, players?
Just by making them aware of it. We need to be careful with how we go about our tackling, and we need to play with discipline. It's a big part of the game. I think when you make a mistake, you want to try and right that, and sometimes you go too hard and those things. And we know the way that the game's adjudicated. We need to be careful around head high, but we had a couple of the sling tackles. We had a couple of the high coming in too hot. So we just didn't handle the pressure. They were really good. Thought they, other than first quarters over there last month, they've actually played some okay footy. But certainly we played them back into form, unfortunately, tonight.
I was just going to say, those centre clearance numbers were excellent in the first half. Why do you think that you weren't able to capitalise on that?
Yeah, it's a challenge. I think when we win clearances, being able to score from it or even lock it in our front half has been a challenge. So we've got some work to do in front of the ball on working out what the best mix is. Having Mitch Lewis back gives us a bit of a beacon to kick it to, but when he didn't mark it, I thought they defended well. They were able to get back first. I thought Young was really, really quite good in the game and was an important player for them that we didn't have an answer for. And it's one of, I think stoppage wins is great, but being able to score from it and consolidate the territory is the next step for us. And we knew there'd be some bumps in the road on this journey, and getting it into your front half and not being able to retain it is better than not being able to get it there at all. So, which is the problem we had in the second half.
When you're coaching them around the centre, the result of the centre and getting benefit from it, do you look at the numbers or do you look at where it's ending up for them? What's the message you're trying to preach to them from that?
I think David Hale's done a great job with the midfielders, and Chris Newman's still a bit of a work in progress with the forward craft and the forward line that we have, and trying to figure out where, I thought we had some opportunities perhaps to drive our legs a little bit more and take a little bit more territory in the first half. I think I mentioned 29 inside 50s, but I think only 5 of them had sort of been deep, really deep entries. So it meant that their halfbacks were able to be quite influential in the game and bounce it out of there a bit too quickly.
Luke Bruce would have been handy up forward tonight. He managed him. He was down as managed this week. Is he sore, or is he just looking after him so he can play next week?
Yeah, more looking after him so he could play next week. He's 32 years old. We had a chat, probably 3 weeks ago, saying it's unlikely with how your body is right now that you're going to play every game for this season. So let's make sure that you play, 20, 21 games if we can get that out of you, and make sure you play them all with really high energy. So it was a 50-50 for last week, and then he got himself up and was able to have a good influence on the game, particularly early. But pulled up as you would expect after the heart attack there. That this trip would have meant that he would have really struggled for next week, and I would have loved him, but our days of relying on Luke Bruce need to come to an end at some stage, and unfortunately, we would have loved to have him out there. I think he could have added something for us tonight.
You talked about the discipline or discipline and the aggression towards free kicks. When the 2 goals from 50 are coming from dissent from Sicily and a cheap push in the back from Frost, is that disappointing? Is that frustrating? How do you address that as you're seeing your players doing that stuff?
Yeah, I think that those 2 players, Frosty had 10 intercept possessions tonight. So you look at his performance and. I don't think he had any of those heart in the mouth type of moments and so you look at his progress over his last 4 games and you think he's a guy who, even at, 28 or whatever age he is, he's making significant progress in his game and getting better. He gave away an in the back free kick, and I think he dropped a mark early and then gave away a free kick for that one, where he was so annoyed at himself. And that's, they're parts of the game which are disappointing from your senior players, but they're expected, and they're not patterns of behaviour for those guys. And I think with Sis, he's been so reliable for us for the whole season. He's a guy that just stands up, and he lost a couple of contests, which is unlike him tonight. But he's a guy that we know that can be relied on, and they'll continue to learn their craft. They're all new to leadership formal positions, and understanding that they've got a lot of influence on the people around them is part of their learning curve, and they're certainly on that, and we're all on that together.
Being a young, sorry, Kate, you go.
Oh, well, as a coach, is it better to probably try and pull them back a little bit when you're talking about that ferocity rather than trying to, build that up? So are you sort of taking a positive role?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there was a part of this game was, when we played with high energy, we didn't have the skills to pull it off, and we had so many opportunities where, and then you sort of let yourself down with the final piece, and then we sort of tried to play with a little bit more control later in the game, and then we actually controlled territory and we controlled field position, but we had no energy in the game, and there was no spirit about us. And even though it was actually working for this moment, it wasn't the type of footy that we would like to play long term, and by the same token, it meant that the players had there was sort of a passive attitude about them because we were playing a more of a controlled game. So the challenge for our group is, can we play a high energy brand in lots of different modes of play? And, we're probably not, we haven't mastered every phase of play at this stage of our journey, but certainly from a leadership perspective, I would rather have a group of players who are prone to going a bit too far and being a bit too eager than trying to spark them up and energise them, which I haven't had to do too often, pleasingly.
How about with a game like tonight, with you're in a teaching phase, obviously, do you go into the game trying to throw some players some new roles and learn about them? Did you do any of that tonight?
We did a couple of things. So we sent Josh Ward to Brayshaw for a small period of time, and was a lot of things went wrong. He went forward, and then Wardy ended up at half back for a period of the game, which is not really part of the plan. But it was a good learning curve. Good learning curve for him. We obviously threw the magnets around and put Morrison to half back and gave Bramble, injected him into the game, which, I thought he did some okay things and pushed Scrimshaw forward. But really, we're trying to master the craft of our A game. I think we know what brand of footy that we would like to play, and that is a brand that will take us to the finals, winning premierships. And so every decision that we make is trying to build a premiership team. And trying to do that, sometimes you have to handle what's right in front of you. But for the most part, we're trying to make sure that we've got all the players we need, playing in the right positions, playing with the right confidence, understanding each other, playing together with synergy, trying to build all those things all as fast as we can. And I don't feel like we made as much progress as I would have liked tonight.
We just might take one more.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks.